Let's be brutally honest. Most men don't understand the value of ignoring a woman, not because they're weak, but because they've been taught that being available, expressive, and emotionally present at all times is what makes a woman stay. But here's the truth. In the modern dating world, availability is often mistaken for desperation, and desperation kills attraction fast. We live in a time where women are constantly validated, likes, texts, compliments, attention. So when you're just another man doing what every other man does, responding fast, chasing her shadow and trying too hard, you disappear into the crowd. You become background noise. But when you learn the power of silence, space, and calculated distance, everything changes. Wearing a woman isn't about being toxic. It's not about playing childish games or trying to hurt her. It's about discipline, control, and reversing the emotional leverage. It's about understanding that sometimes doing less creates more impact. Ignoring her the right way forces her to feel your absence, to notice your value, and to realize that your attention is earned, not given away freely. When done properly, this tactic flips the script. Instead of chasing her approval, you command her attention. Instead of always explaining yourself, you become a mystery she wants to solve. And in a world full of men who can't stop simping, the man who knows how and when to pull away becomes unforgettable. If you're tired of being the guy who gets taken for granted, if you're tired of losing power in relationships, and you're ready to stop being predictable, then this is for you. Let's break down the real power and dark secrets behind ignoring a woman and how it can shift everything in your favor. Number 1. Why ignoring works. Ignoring a woman works because human nature is wired to desire what feels just out of reach. We don't chase what's too available. We chase what's scarce, what's uncertain, what holds emotional weight. The moment a woman feels like she can have all of you at any time, she stops feeling urgency. She may like you, sure, she may even care about you. But desire fades when effort disappears, and when you're always available, you've removed the need for effort. Now think about the modern woman. She's used to being noticed, complimented, pursued. It's nothing new to her. She doesn't value it like she used to. So when you try to impress her with consistent texting, long conversations, or desperate attempts to make her happy, you're not creating attraction. You're just proving you're another one of the many. But when you go silent, when you withdraw your energy, you interrupt her rhythm. She starts wondering why you're not like the others. That break in expectation is what creates emotional tension, and tension is the root of attraction. Men often confuse ignoring with neglect or being rude, but this isn't about being mean. It's about creating psychological space. It's about letting her feel what it's like without your constant presence. When she feels that gap, she begins to associate your absence with something missing. That feeling becomes her driver to reach out, to reconnect, to engage. But there's a catch. This only works if your absence feels valuable. If you're just a guy who's been needy, clingy, or emotionally weak, then ignoring her won't make an impact because she's already lost interest. That's why timing and self-respect are everything. You have to pull back before you're completely dismissed. You have to create the tension before she gets bored. The key is to make her feel like she's losing something special when you step away. And to do that, you must carry yourself like a man who has value with or without her. When you ignore a woman from that frame of strength, not anger, not revenge, but calm confidence, it hits differently. She doesn't just notice it, she feels it. It throws her off balance. It makes her wonder, did I lose him? And that question is powerful. In the end, ignoring a woman works because it reverses the emotional dynamic. It stops you from over-investing and forces her to meet you halfway. It makes your presence mean something again, and that's when she starts to chase. Number 2, pulling back to regain control. There comes a point in every man's interaction with a woman where he feels like something's slipping. Her interest, her effort, her respect. You feel her becoming colder, her texts are shorter, her energy is off. And most men panic. They double and down. They start over-explaining, over-texting, or even begging for attention. But here's the truth. When you feel her pulling away, the smartest move is not to chase, but to pull back. That's how you regain control. Pulling back is not weakness. It's not surrender. It's a calculated act of strength. It's the moment where you decide that you will no longer fight for someone who's treating you like an option. Most men forget that women respond to energy, not logic. If your energy says, "I can't live without you," you're already defeated. But when your energy says, "I'm not forcing anything, I'll be just fine without this," everything changes. The modern man is too reactive. He lets a woman's mood dictate his self-worth. One called response and he spirals. One ignored text and he starts doubting himself. But when you master the art of pulling back, you stop giving away emotional power. You stop being a puppet to her validation. You take back the control that you've slowly handed over by always being available, always initiating, always trying too hard. When you pull back, you create a gap. And that gap allows clarity. She now has the space to think about you, to miss you, to evaluate if she really wants to lose you. And most importantly, you give yourself room to evaluate her. You stop operating from emotion and start operating from logic. Is she adding peace to your life or stress? Is she truly into you or just enjoying the attention? These are things you can't see clearly when you're emotionally tangled. Now, let's talk about what pulling back actually looks like. It's not ghosting. It's not ignoring for revenge. It's strategic detachment. You reduce your effort. You stop initiating texts. You stop pushing for conversations. You focus on your life, your goals, your peace. You don't make an announcement. You just shift. Quietly, confidently. She will notice. Trust me. And what happens next is where the magic begins. One of two things will occur. Either she steps up, reaches out, and starts showing effort, or she fades. And if she fades, good. She was never really for you. But if she starts chasing again, now you're operating from a place of balance. Now she respects your space. Now you flip the emotional dynamic. You've proven that your attention is not guaranteed. It has to be earned. Pulling back is not about manipulation. It's about remembering your value. And once you do that, the control you thought you lost is yours again, without even raising your voice. Number 3, the shift in power. There's a moment quiet and invisible when the dynamic between a man and a woman flips. You don't announce it. You don't force it. But it happens the moment you stop chasing, stop explaining, and stop giving energy to someone who treats it like an afterthought. When you ignore a woman who's pulling away, who's testing, or who's subtly disrespecting your presence, something fundamental shifts, the power dynamic. And it doesn't shift because you yell louder or flex harder. It shifts because silence speaks louder than any clever comeback. Let's break this down. In any relationship or even early flirtation, there's always a flow of energy, attention, validation, interest. Most men, without realizing it, hand all of theirs away too quickly. They over-pursue, they clarify, they try to fix, they try to prove they're worth her time. But here's the truth she won't say out loud. She doesn't want to feel like the prize if she hasn't earned it. When you ignore her strategically, not emotional, you interrupt that pattern. You say, without saying, my energy is valuable, I don't throw it at someone who isn't showing up. This isn't about being manipulative, it's about self-respect. She starts to notice, not always consciously, but something inside her recalibrates. She wonders why you're not reacting. She expects you to double down, to win her over. When you don't, her mind kicks in. Curiosity replaces comfort. Doubt replaces certainty. Why is he not chasing? Did he go too far? Is he losing interest? And just like that, you're not the one trying to get her attention. She's trying to figure out why she doesn't have yours. This shift only happens when your silence comes from strength, not from insecurity. If you ignore her just to get a reaction, she'll sense it. She'll label it as emotional immaturity or desperation. But if your silence is grounded in Stoic calm, if it says, "I'm not here to entertain games," then it hits different. Let's talk real-world examples. Say she used to text you consistently, but lately her replies are slow, dry, and non-committal. You feel it. The vibe is off. Most guys panic. They ask if everything's okay. They double text. They spiral. But the grounded man pulls back, not out of spite but because he recognizes he's being drained, not fed. He stops initiating. He doesn't explain. He just shifts his energy toward himself, his mission, his peace, his power. And here's what happens. She notices the vacuum, because attention is a drug, and when you cut the supply, the absence becomes louder than the presence ever was. Now, she's the one feeling the imbalance. She reevaluates. Maybe she reaches out more, maybe she adjusts her tone, or maybe she fades completely. Either way, you've revealed the truth. And more importantly, you've kept your dignity. This is the power of the shift. You don't just ignore her, you recenter yourself. You stop orbiting around her validation and return to your own gravitational field. From a Stoic perspective, this is alignment. You can't control her actions, only your own. So you stop investing energy where it's not being honored. And when you do that with quiet confidence, not bitterness, you become the man who's in control of his emotional world. Remember, masculine energy doesn't chase chaos. It sets the tone. It doesn't shout. It anchors. And that's what makes it irresistible. Now, if this hits home, drop this in the comments. I protect my energy. And if you're still with me, stick around. Because what we're about to unpack next will flip your entire mindset around attraction. You won't want to miss it. Number 4, triggering her curiosity. Let's be brutally honest for a second. Women aren't drawn to men who lay it all out on the table too soon. You know the guy, always available, always explaining himself, always making sure she knows exactly how he feels. It feels safe, predictable, and boring. Curiosity dies when there's no mystery. That's the cold truth most men ignore. Now, when you ignore a woman not out of spite, but as a grounded, intentional move, you do something powerful. You don't punish her. You provoke curiosity. And that curiosity, when activated the right way, becomes a magnet. Let's dive deeper. Women don't just fall for looks or charm. What truly pulls them in is emotion. And curiosity is an emotional trigger. It creates questions. It opens loops. It activates the part of her brain that wants to close that loop. Why isn't he reaching out? What's he doing? Is he losing interest? That's when her imagination starts running wild. This is where you have leverage, not because you're playing games, but because you're not playing her game. So how do you trigger curiosity without being a jerk? Simple. You become unpredictable in the best way. You stop offering your energy on demand. You shift focus away from her and into your world, and you let her feel the contrast. Let me give you a scenario. Imagine you've been seeing someone, texting back and forth. Everything seems smooth, but then she starts pulling back. She's still polite, still responding, but the warmth is gone. Her replies come hours later. The tone is colder. Something's off. Most men would try harder. They'd start performing, asking, "Are we good?" trying to warm her back up. But the man who understands female psychology, he steps back. He He doesn't make a scene. He doesn't explain his silence. He just vanishes into his mission, into his purpose, into himself. And suddenly, she's not sure what's happening anymore. She thought she had you figured out. She thought you'd keep showing up no matter how cold she acted. But now, you're a question mark. And here's the secret. The more she doesn't know about you, the more her mind fills in the gaps. If your energy is centered, confident, focused on your own path, she'll start wondering what she lost. She'll start thinking more about you than she did when you were available 24/7. Because mystery forces her to project value onto you. It's the difference between a movie that shows you every plot twist in the first 10 minutes and one that teases just enough to keep you watching. Stoicism teaches us something vital here. The man who controls himself controls the dynamic. And when you stop needing her attention, her validation, or her approval, that's when she begins to seek yours. You create space, not emotional distance in a toxic way, but mental distance. You let her realize that access to you is not a given. And when access becomes rare, it becomes valuable. Remember, it's not about ignoring her with resentment. It's about stepping back into your masculine frame so she can feel the absence of it, because that absence does something. It gets under her skin. It makes her wonder, and in that wonder, desire is born. The best part? You don't need to say a word. You don't need clever texts or manipulative moves. Just your silence, just your focus, just your presence removed from her world. That's the art, that's the psychology. That's what makes her mind spiral in your direction again. Because curiosity, when triggered subtly, doesn't just make her miss you, it makes her want to figure you out. Now don't go anywhere, because the next piece we're about to explore builds directly on this. It's one of the most overlooked tools men have when dealing with cold behavior, and it flips the entire game. Number 5. When she starts chasing. Let's talk about the moment she flips the dynamic. The coldness fades. She starts reaching out. She's texting first, asking how your day was, maybe even throwing in a compliment she hasn't said in weeks. You feel it, she's chasing. Now here's where most guys get it wrong. The moment she shows interest again, they throw away all the power they've built. They dive right back into over-texting, over-explaining, being available 24/7. Why? Because they think her chasing is a sign the game is won. It's not. It's the beginning of a new game, one where she's testing, are you the same man who used to pedestal me, or are you the man who can hold his frame no matter how much I show or withhold affection? When a woman starts chasing after a period of coldness, it doesn't mean you've won her back. It means your silence, your distance, your groundedness made her curious again. It created space for her desire to breathe. Now she wants back in, but she wants to know who she's stepping toward. This is when your restraint becomes power. You don't flood her inbox. You don't react like a starving man thrown a crumb. You respond with calm interest. You stay centered in your purpose, your mission, and most importantly, you don't give her more than she's earned. Let her lean in. Let her initiate. Let her feel what it's like to crave your attention, not be handed it. Because real attraction doesn't grow when you're trying to prove your worth. It grows when your presence speaks for itself, when she has to wonder about you. This is what flips emotional polarity. She becomes the one thinking, why is he so composed? Why isn't he all over me? Did he move on? Is he seeing someone else? Has he outgrown me? That tension is not cruelty, it's chemistry. And when you play it right, she doesn't just chase you, she respects you. But here's where a lot of men sabotage themselves again. They need reassurance. They want her to say, I miss you, I want us back. So they push, they label, they bring up the past, and all that quiet power dissolves into neediness. Don't fall for that. When she starts chasing, you don't meet her at 100%. You meet her at 60%. You make her close the gap. Not because you're playing games, but because you're teaching her that your energy is earned, not assumed. So ask yourself, when she chases, do you stay calm, or do you collapse into the old you? Stay grounded. Let her feel the difference between a man who needs her validation and a man who values himself more than any short-term attention. Because when you hold that line, when she realizes she can't shake you, you become unforgettable. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a woman start chasing you after going cold? How did you handle it? And what would you do differently now? Drop your experience in the comments. Let's make this a space where men sharpen men. And if you're learning something from this, don't just watch, apply it. This is about more than women. It's about who you are when no one is clapping, when no one is chasing, when you are still rooted. Ready for the next move? Let's keep going. Number 6, staying silent with confidence. Let's talk about silence, and the awkward kind, but the kind that speaks louder than words. Most men panic when there's silence. They rush to fill the space with words, jokes, or validation, thinking if they don't say something, they'll lose the momentum, or worse, lose her. But that mindset is a trap. When a man learns to sit in silence with calm, he sends a message louder than any clever pickup line. I don't need to prove myself. And that energy, that's magnetic. It's not about being cold or distant, it's about presence. It's about creating space for her to step toward you. Now, women are incredibly attuned to emotional energy. They can sense desperation in milliseconds. When you talk too much, try too hard, or explain every emotion, it communicates one thing: insecurity. And nothing kills attraction faster than a man unsure of himself. But when you're silent with confidence, with poise, says you're grounded. You're not waiting for her reaction. You're not performing, you're just being. And that stillness creates mystery, curiosity, and even tension, the good kind. It's the same reason why some men walk into a room and instantly shift the energy without saying a word. Think of those moments when she tests you. Maybe she pulls back a bit. Maybe she acts aloof. Your instinct might be to chase, to talk, to explain, but don't. Just hold your ground. Let the silence hang. Let her feel your self-control. That's how power shifts in your favor. Now, Stoic philosophy teaches something powerful here. Control what you can, accept what you can't, and respond with reason. Silence is your control. You can't control how she feels in every moment, but you can control your presence, your energy, your breath. And when you do that, you become the calm in the storm. She may not understand why, but she'll feel safer with you even as she wonders more about you. Let me give you a simple real-world frame. You're on a date. She's talking. Maybe she drops a tease or flirts with another guy nearby, watching for your reaction. Most men flinch. They fumble. They try to joke or compensate. But you sip your drink, you pause, you meet her eyes slowly, and you say nothing. Just a half smile, just stillness. That response burns deeper than 1,000 clever replies. Here's the deal. When you don't fill every gap with noise, you invite her imagination to work. You give her space to wonder what you're thinking. That's how desire builds. That's how she leans in. Most men rob women of this by over-communicating. But when you're silent, you're allowing attraction to simmer. But make no mistake, this silence must be rooted in confidence. If you're quiet because you're nervous or unsure, she'll feel that too. The key is emotional self-control. Practice holding silence during tension, during eye contact, during playful moments. Learn to love that edge, because silence is not the absence of connection, it's the amplifier of it. Silence also shows emotional maturity. You're not reactive. You don't explain yourself constantly. You're not trying to win approval. You're centered. And in a world full of men trying to be seen, the man who is content in silence becomes unforgettable. One final thought: don't just stay silent for the effect. Let it come from your inner calm, your purpose, your strength. Let it be natural, because when it is, she'll not only respect you, she'll crave to know more. I speak with presence. Write it below if that's the man you're becoming. The next part, it's where most men lose the game without realizing it, and you won't want to be one of them. Stay locked in. Number 7. Using ignorance selectively. Let's get one thing straight: ignoring a woman isn't about manipulation, it's about mastering attention. The truth is, the most attractive men don't give every woman or every moment their full emotional bandwidth. And the key here is selective ignorance. Selective ignorance doesn't mean pretending she doesn't exist. It means choosing when to engage and when to not react. Because when you give a woman everything, your time, your emotion, your attention, without discernment, you strip away your own value. Why? Because human nature craves what's earned, not what's given freely. Think about it like this. When you ignore nonsense-epity drama, subtle jabs, tests meant to provoke you, you're not being passive, you're exercising power. You're saying, that doesn't move me, I don't dance on command. And trust me, women respect that more than a man who tries to prove himself at every turn. Here's the psychology behind it. When you choose not to react, you flip the power dynamic. She starts wondering why you're not biting, why you're not chasing, why you're not validating. That pause, that delay, it creates tension. And attraction lives in that tension. But here's where most guys mess it up. They ignore everything, thinking it makes them look alpha. Wrong. Indifference without intention is just disconnection. But when you ignore with purpose, when you choose where your focus goes, now you're playing the deeper game. For example, she posts something provocative online. Most guys rush to like, comment, send a DM. You? Nothing. Silence. Why? Because attention is your currency, and you spend it wisely. Or maybe she tries to trigger jealousy, mentions other guys, flirts in front of you. Most men react. You don't. You give a slow nod, maybe a calm smile, then change the subject or walk away. That's power. That's selective ignorance. Stoic philosophy echoes this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means you don't owe a reaction to everything that happens, especially not to emotional bait. And here's the kicker. When you ignore something small, you're often testing her. You're seeing if she can step into your world instead of pulling you into hers. A woman who respects your center will feel the gap and want to close it. She'll wonder, why didn't he flinch? Why didn't he fight back? Why isn't he chasing? And from that wondering, curiosity turns into pursuit. Now, let's be clear, you don't use this tactic to punish. You're not playing games. You're teaching her your standard. You're showing that your attention is earned, not begged for. That you respond to depth, not chaos. This creates a shift in how she interacts with you. The more selective you are with your responses, the more intentional she becomes with her behavior. She starts thinking twice before testing you, because she knows she won't play along unless it's worth his time. And here's a quick insight. Silence doesn't mean absence. You're still present, grounded, observing. But your silence says, I don't need to react to control the moment, I already do. In relationships, selective ignorance builds respect. It keeps attraction alive. It places your value front and center. And in a world that constantly demands your attention, being a man who chooses where to place his energy, that's rare. That's powerful. When you learn to ignore selectively, you stop reacting and start leading. It's not about silence from weakness, it's silence with intention. You don't chase her attention, you protect your peace, and that's when the game flips. Now if this hits home, drop this in the comments. I protect my energy. And don't even think we've hit the peak, yet what's coming next might just flip the whole script. Number 8. Her silence craves your strength. You know what most men get wrong when a woman goes quiet? They panic. They start overthinking, over-texting, asking what's wrong, or worse, trying to fix something that she hasn't even voiced yet. But here's the truth no one tells you. Her silence isn't always punishment. Sometimes it's a test, and deeper than that, it's a craving. Women crave strength, emotional strength, mental steadiness, spiritual presence. When she goes quiet, what she's really doing is watching, observing, testing your emotional bandwidth. And the last thing she wants is for you to crumble. Let me make this clear. Her silence does not require your noise. It requires your center, your calm, your grounded masculine energy that doesn't flinch when she pulls back. You see, in the dance of attraction, especially the subtle psychological game that unfolds between masculine and feminine polarity, your stability is magnetic. When she pulls away, goes cold, or disappears into her own emotional weather, it's not always about you. But it becomes about you the moment you make it about you. If you react, you lose frame. If you chase, you lose mystery. If you fold, you lose respect. So what should you do when her silence fills the space between you? You hold the line. You don't fill it with desperation or explanation. You don't try to rescue her from her own feelings. You let her feel them. You give her the gift of your emotional resilience without having to say a word. This is the kind of strength that Stoic philosophy teaches, the kind of self-control that doesn't suppress emotion but channels it into intentional, powerful presence. Marcus Aurelius wasn't calling for men to become numb. He was calling for men to become unshakable. In modern terms, that means you don't freak out when the vibe shifts. You don't fill the gap. You sit with it. You own it. And if she's truly feminine at her core, your strength will pull her back in. And here's what most men miss. The feminine doesn't always communicate directly. It communicates in energy, vibe, pull, absence. And often, that absence is a vacuum looking for presence. If you can remain strong when she's silent, grounded when she's erratic, stable when she's stormy, that's when she starts to feel something deeper than attraction. She starts to feel safe. And once a woman feels safe in your energy, that's when she begins to open fully. So don't chase her silence, don't decode it, just respond to it by becoming more of yourself. Solid, certain, focused. It's not about ignoring her. It's about not letting her emotional weather determine your internal climate. That's the difference between a man she respects and a man she tolerates. Silence is a space, and space is where a real man shines. Now, if you've ever held your center when she pulled away and you saw her come back stronger, drop this in the comments. I hold the frame. And if this part spoke to something deeper in you, stay close, because what's coming next, it's going to hit even harder. Number 9. Mystery over emotion wins her mind. Let's cut straight to it. Most men think showing more emotion makes them more attractive. They believe vulnerability, when thrown around carelessly, is the secret to a deeper connection. But here's the truth that hits hard. What pulls her in isn't how much you share, it's how much you withhold. It's not your emotional transparency that keeps her thinking about you. It's your mystery. That's right, mystery over emotion every time. Because mystery makes her wonder. It makes her imagine. It keeps her mentally engaged, scanning every detail, replaying every conversation, asking herself, what is he really thinking? What's behind that calm? What does he feel about me, really? You don't get that kind of intrigue by laying your heart bare on the table in week 1. You don't earn respect by confessing every fear, every wound, every insecurity too early. That's not intimacy. That's insecurity in disguise. Think about the movies or the stories that stay with you. It's the characters you can't quite figure out. The ones who have layers, depth, restraint. Those are the ones that captivate. That's what you want to become in her mind. Not the open book, but the page turner. Here's why it works. The feminine energy is naturally curious. It seeks emotional adventure. It wants to explore. If you give her the entire map too soon, there's no mystery left to navigate. You become predictable, and predictability kills the spark. But when you know how to restrain your emotions, when you show control, not confusion, you create polarity. You create that subtle tension that keeps her leaning in, wondering, wanting. That doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means being deliberate. You speak with weight. You share just enough to feel real, but never so much that she feels she's got you. It's the man who can express emotion without losing his center that becomes unforgettable. And here's the trick most guys don't know. You can be emotionally present without being emotionally exposed. You can look her in the eye and say nothing, and it'll say more than 1,000 words ever could. You can smile at her with calm certainty and let the moment breathe. That's what she'll remember when she's lying awake at night. In Stoic terms, this is self-command, not repression, not denial, just discipline. The kind that makes your presence more powerful because you don't let every thought or feeling spill out of you. You channel, you contain, you carry weight. And that weight, it wins her mind. Women aren't drawn to men who lose control to emotion. They're drawn to men who can stand inside their emotion like a king on his throne, not flinching, not oversharing, not looking for emotional validation. Because when she sees that you don't need to emote to be seen, she starts to crave your approval. When she can't read you completely, she starts chasing the missing pieces. When you stay composed while everyone else leaks emotion, you own the room. That's the art. That's the frame. And that's how you win her mind without a single dramatic word. If you've ever held your mystery and felt her lean in harder, drop this in the comments. I move in silence. And keep your seat, because where we're headed next, you'll want to be ready for the twist. Number 10. Don't chase her mood, command her attention. Let's say this clearly. If you're constantly trying to adjust to her mood swings, if you're walking on eggshells around her emotional shifts, if your energy rises and falls depending on how she feels today, you've already lost frame. Because the moment you chase her mood, you hand her the reins. You give up your power. You stop being the man she looks to and start being the man she controls without even trying. See, most men, especially those who care, make this mistake without realizing it. She gets quiet. He starts probing. She pulls back. He leans in. She's irritated. He starts apologizing. Not because he did anything wrong, but because her vibe made him question himself. And right there, the dynamic flips. Instead of leading, you're reacting. But here's the truth. Women don't fall in love with men who react. They fall for men who command. Not through force, not through loudness, through presence, through stillness, through calm leadership of the moment. When you stop chasing her emotional temperature and instead stay grounded in yours, you instantly become magnetic, because you're no longer giving her power over your mental and emotional state. You're saying, without words, you can feel however you need to, but I remain rooted. And that's attractive, that's rare, that's masculine. Now let's be clear, this doesn't mean you ignore her feelings or act indifferent. This is not about being cold, it's about staying centered. If she's stormy, you don't need to be the umbrella, you need to be the sky, unshaken, ever present. Women feel safe with that kind of strength. Not because you solve every emotion for them, but because you don't get swept up by them. You give her space to feel without making it about you. You become a mirror of masculine calm. And the more she senses that, the more she subconsciously respects it, the more she craves it. Now, here's the part most men never understand. When you chase her mood, you validate chaos. When you stay still, you invite clarity. Her attention doesn't go to the man who begs her to talk. It goes to the one who doesn't break his focus, the one who's building something, the one who, in the face of her drama, simply raises an eyebrow and keeps it moving. Because that man, he doesn't just attract her interest, he commands it. There's a principle in Stoicism called apatheia, state of being undisturbed by external things, not numb, not dead inside, just sovereign, unshaken. That's what we're aiming for. A woman's mood is like the ocean, constantly shifting. You don't build a house on the waves, you build it on solid ground, and you are that ground. When you live from that frame, when you stop chasing her emotion and start leading with clarity, her energy shifts. Suddenly she's watching you more closely. She's leaning into your tone, your pace, your rhythm. Why? Because you stopped orbiting her. You became the center of your own universe. That's how you command attention without saying a word. That's how you flip the dynamic without begging for anything. You stand still and let her moods pass like weather, while you remain the mountain. Now, if this makes sense to you, if you've ever held your center and watched the entire mood shift around you, then drop this in the comments. I lead the frame. And don't move just yet, because the conversation isn't done. What comes next? Let's just say it'll flip everything you thought you knew. And there you have it. Today's video unpacked the silent art and powerful psychology of ignoring a woman the right way. Not out of bitterness, not to play games, but to stand firm in your value and reclaim the frame. If you're ready for more content like this, content that sharpens your mind, strengthens your masculine edge, and helps you lead with quiet dominance, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now. And if you're serious about leveling up alongside other men who walk the Stoic path, consider joining the Stoic Brotherhood, or private community of men who don't just watch, but apply. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you right here tomorrow.